Your mouth is your greatest enemy. Not other people's words, your own. Every day, you sabotage yourself with sentences that seem harmless but destroy your power, reveal your weaknesses, and hand your enemies the weapons they need to defeat you. Today, I'm exposing the 10 most dangerous verbal traps that even intelligent people fall into, and how ancient masters learned to weaponize silence instead. Lao Tzu wrote, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." But in our age of endless expression, we've forgotten this profound wisdom. We think speaking our truth is power, but ancient Stoics and Zen masters understood something darker, that most of the time, your mouth is working for your enemies, not for you. These aren't just communication mistakes. These are psychological self-sabotage patterns that reveal your deepest vulnerabilities to anyone listening carefully. If you're ready to discover how your own words are destroying your strategic position and learn the ancient art of powerful silence, hit subscribe. You're about to understand why the most dangerous people often say the least. Situation 1: Explaining your success. The first situation where your mouth betrays you is when you explain your success to others. The moment you start justifying why you deserve what you've achieved, you've already lost. Here's the psychological trap: when you explain your success, you invite analysis, criticism, and resentment. You transform your accomplishment from an undeniable fact into a debatable proposition. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius never explained why he deserved to rule the Roman Empire, he simply ruled it. Zen masters don't explain their enlightenment, they embody it. When someone questions your success, your instinct is to defend it with explanations. "I worked so hard, I made sacrifices, I earned this." But every word you speak gives them ammunition to tear you down. They start looking for exceptions, for luck factors, for ways you don't deserve it. The truly powerful response is silence or redirection. What specifically interests you about this? Let them reveal their agenda while you reveal nothing. Your success should speak for itself. The moment you feel the need to justify it, you've given others permission to judge it. Situation 2: Revealing your future plans. The second trap is revealing your future plans before they're protected by action. Your mouth becomes a weapon against your own dreams. When you announce your intentions, several devastating things happen. First, you get a dopamine hit from people's reactions, which can satisfy your achievement drive without actually achieving anything. Second, you invite doubt, skepticism, and negative energy into your creative space. Third, you create external accountability to timelines that may not align with organic development. The Buddha taught that attachment to outcomes creates suffering, but attachment to discussing outcomes before they manifest creates failure. Think about it: how many dreams have you talked to death? How many plans have withered under the premature exposure of other people's opinions? Ancient wisdom traditions understood that creation happens in darkness first. Seeds grow underground. Babies develop in the womb. Great strategies are born in silence. The exception is when you're ready to commit publicly for accountability, but that's different from casual revelation. That strategic declaration after internal commitment is already absolute. Situation 3: Defending your reputation. The third situation is defending your reputation against attacks. The moment you start explaining why the criticism isn't true, you've legitimized the criticism itself. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive wisdom, but it's devastatingly accurate. When someone attacks your character and you respond defensively, you've accepted that their opinion matters enough to warrant a defense. Sun Tzu taught that the supreme excellence is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In reputation warfare, this means not accepting the premise that you need to defend yourself to people whose opinions shouldn't matter. The psychological trap is thinking that silence equals guilt. But strategically, silence often equals power. When you don't dignify attacks with responses, you communicate that the attacker lacks the authority to judge you. Watch how powerful people handle criticism. They either ignore it completely or address it so briefly and dismissively that it becomes clear the criticism was never worthy of serious consideration. Your reputation is built by your actions over time, not by your defensive explanations in moments of attack. Situation 4: sharing your personal struggles. The fourth trap is oversharing your personal struggles and challenges. You think you're building connection, but you're actually broadcasting your pressure points to anyone who wants to exploit them. This doesn't mean you can never be vulnerable, it means you need to be strategic about when, with whom, and how you share your struggles. The ancient concept of sacred wounds teaches us that some pain is meant to be transmuted privately into wisdom, not displayed publicly for sympathy. When you constantly discuss your problems, you reinforce your identity as someone who has those problems. You become the story of your suffering rather than the hero who overcame it. Worse, you give others a roadmap to your weaknesses. They learn exactly which buttons to push, which fears to trigger, and which insecurities to exploit when they need to manipulate you. The Stoic approach is to handle struggles internally or with carefully chosen advisors, then share the wisdom gained, not the wounds endured. Share your healing, not your hurting. Share your strength, not your struggle. Situation 5, justifying your decisions. The fifth situation is justifying your decisions to people who lack the authority or information to judge them. Every explanation weakens your position. Here's the brutal truth: when you justify your choices, you're implicitly asking for permission retroactively. You're saying, I made this decision, but I need you to validate that it was correct. Leaders don't explain their decisions to everyone, they make them and accept the consequences. The moment you start explaining why you chose A over B, you invite others to question your judgment and second-guess your authority. The ancient principle here is that authority comes from certainty, and certainty doesn't require explanation. If you truly believe your decision was correct, why do you need others to agree? The appropriate response when someone questions your decision is either silence, a brief acknowledgement without justification, or turning the question back to them. What specific concern does that raise for you? This doesn't apply to legitimate requests for information from people who need to understand your reasoning for operational purposes. It applies to casual questioning from people who simply want to exercise judgment over your choices. Situation 6, revealing your emotional triggers. The sixth trap is letting your mouth reveal your emotional triggers during heated moments. The words you speak in anger become the instruction manual for your future manipulation. When someone pushes your buttons and you react emotionally, you're not just losing that moment, you're giving them the exact blueprint for how to control you in future interactions. Every time you say, I can't stand when, it really bothers me that, or, you always, you're handing over your remote control. You're teaching them which words to use, which topics to raise, and which behaviors to employ when they want to throw you off balance. The Zen concept of emotional Aikido teaches us to redirect rather than resist. Instead of explaining why their words affect you, you acknowledge without engaging, I can see this is important to you. Instead of defending your triggers, you remove the target. Ancient warriors knew that showing your enemy where you're vulnerable is the fastest way to lose the war. Your emotional triggers are your psychological weak points, guard them like state secrets. Situation 7, complaining about unfairness. The seventh situation is complaining about unfairness or injustice to people who can't or won't fix it. Your mouth transforms you from a strategist into a victim. Every moment you spend explaining why something isn't fair is a moment you're not spending finding a way to win anyway. Every word you use to describe injustice is a word that reinforces your powerlessness in the face of it. The Stoic principle of preferred indifference teaches us that most external circumstances are beyond our control, and complaining about them is like complaining about the weather, pointless and energy draining. But here's where it gets psychologically dangerous: when you constantly voice complaints about unfairness, you train your own mind to focus on victimhood rather than solutions. You become the person who explains why they can't win rather than the person who finds a way to win. Others also start to see you as someone who makes excuses rather than makes progress. Your reputation shifts from someone who overcomes obstacles to someone who explains why obstacles are too hard. The powerful response is to acknowledge unfairness privately, then focus publicly on your strategy for succeeding within that unfair system. Situation 8, seeking validation for your opinions. The eighth trap is seeking validation for your opinions by ending statements with questions. Don't you think? Wouldn't you agree? Am I wrong? This verbal habit seems harmless, but it systematically undermines your authority and credibility. You're transforming declarative statements into requests for approval. When you constantly seek validation for your thoughts, you communicate that you don't trust your own judgment. If you don't trust your judgment, why should anyone else? The psychological damage compounds over time. People start to see you as someone who needs consensus to have confidence. They learn that your opinions are negotiable, not convictions. Ancient philosophers spoke with certainty about their insights, not because they were arrogant, but because they had done the internal work to arrive at those conclusions. They didn't need external validation because they had internal validation. The practice is to make your statements complete. I believe X, instead of I believe X, don't you think? Your opinions should stand alone, requiring no supporting votes from others. Situation 9, apologizing for your boundaries. The 9th situation is apologizing for enforcing your boundaries. Your mouth turns your strength into weakness and your protection into guilt. When you say things like, sorry, but I can't, I hate to be difficult, but, or, I know this might seem harsh, but, you're weakening your boundary before you even said it. Boundaries aren't suggestions that require apology, they're requirements that require respect. When you apologize for having standards, you communicate that your standards are unreasonable and that others' comfort is more important than your protection. The Zen teaching here is that boundaries are compassionate, they prevent resentment and create clarity. But apologetic boundaries invite negotiation and manipulation. People learn that your boundaries are soft when you frame them apologetically. They start to see your limits as starting points for bargaining rather than ending points for discussion. The powerful approach is to state boundaries clearly and kindly without apology. I don't discuss personal finances. I don't work weekends. That doesn't work for me. No sorry, no explanation, no invitation to debate. Situation 10, revealing your next move. The 10th and final trap is revealing your next move in competitive or strategic situations. Your mouth hands your opponents the information they need to counter you. This applies to everything from business negotiations to personal conflicts to career moves. When you tell people what you're planning to do, when you're planning to do it, and how you're planning to do it, you eliminate the advantage of strategic surprise. Sun Tzu taught that all warfare is based on deception, not lies, but the strategic management of information. Your enemies can't prepare for moves they don't see coming. The compulsion to reveal your strategy often comes from ego. You want credit for your cleverness, recognition for your planning, or validation for your approach. But every piece of strategic information you share is a piece of advantage you surrender. The ancient principle is that wise action speaks louder than wise words. Execute your strategy, then let the results reveal your intelligence. Don't announce your moves, make them. This doesn't mean being secretive about everything, but it means being selective about strategic information until the timing is right for revelation. Your mouth isn't just a communication tool, it's a weapon that's either working for you or against you. These 10 situations reveal how most people accidentally sabotage themselves with words that seem harmless but are strategically devastating. The ancient masters understood something we've forgotten: silence is often more powerful than speech, questions are more dangerous than answers, and mystery is more magnetic than explanation. Lao Tzu's wisdom wasn't just philosophical, it was practical. Those who truly know something don't need to prove it constantly. Those who truly have power don't need to explain it constantly. Those who truly are something don't need to declare it constantly. Your mouth should serve your strategy, not sabotage it. Your words should build your position, not reveal your weaknesses. Your silence should create power, not fill discomfort. Master this, and you'll understand why the most dangerous people often say the least, because they know their mouth could be their greatest enemy. If this opened your eyes to how your own words might be working against you, smash that like button and subscribe for more ancient wisdom that cuts through modern delusions. Here's your challenge: for the next 48 hours, catch yourself in these 10 situations. Don't try to fix them all at once, just become aware of when your mouth is about to betray you. Awareness is the first step to strategic silence. Drop a comment below with just a number, 1 through 10, indicating which situation you recognize most in yourself. No explanation needed. Let's practice the power of saying less while revealing more. And remember, your words are weapons. Make sure they're pointed at your enemies, not at yourself. Until next time, speak strategically, stay silent wisely, and never let your mouth write checks your strategy can't cash.